العلم أشراف مطلوب وطالبه لله أكرام من يمشي على قدمه. العلم نور مبين يستضيء به أهل السعادات والجهال في الظلم.
خلاص. So now that we've performed wudu, now that we've prayed salah and we've paid a bit of zakah and we've fasted and then we've performed hajj, now we move on to Kitab al-Buyoo. Kitab al-Bay' or Kitab al-Buyoo. This is the next rubu'. So the fuqaha split the ibadat or the books of fiqh in general into how many parts? Rubu' ibadat, the rubu' or the part to do with ibadat and the 5 pillars of Islam are discussed in there. We've just finished it. طيب, second, mu'amalat. And this is where it starts. Kitab al-Mu'amalat. Buying, selling, renting out, wikala, wasiyya, all of that sort of stuff. We're going to see inshallah. طيب. Ahkam al-usra. Nikah, talaq, khul' and so on. And the last one, jinayat. Capital punishment, jinayat, shahada, iqrar and so on. طيب. So we're yet to see the other two. Now we're in the second rubu'. طيب. Before going into the book, there's general principles I want you to write down, and this will make it easy for you. So this is an overlook of the first lesson. The Shaykh rahimahullah, he starts by giving general guidelines and conditions of the book. He's going to mention a general guideline and the conditions of bay'. Once a student understands the conditions of bay' and they have an overview of Kitab al-Buyoo', they're going to be able to know that which is halal and that which is haram. طيب. Kitab al-Buyoo', ta'rifuhu, its definition. With the definition, now the fuqaha in general, they don't give importance to definitions. The fuqaha in the books of fiqh, they don't give a lot of importance to definitions. As for usul al-fiqh, they mean their definitions. Every single definition, they mean. So they say it has to be jami' mani, it has to be inclusive and so on. طيب. Like in the fuqaha, they don't really give a lot of attention to the ta'rifat. طيب. تعريف البيع مبادلة عين أو منفعة. It is the exchanging of ayn, something that you can see. I'm going to sell this phone to you. This is a ayn. You can actually see it. طيب. مبادلة عين. So this is a ayn, the exchanging of a ayn. أو منفعة, a benefit, So مثلا, you ask a person, I'm going to pay X amount of money and you build a shed for me, مثلا. That is a manfa'a. You're exchanging money for a manfa'a. You're exchanging money for a manfa'a, a benefit. طيب. Mubaha, it has to be permissible. طيب. With regards to ayn, some of the scholars say mubadalatu malin bimalin, the exchange of mal to mal. Like when they say mal, wealth, that is more general than money, cash. So when we think of mal, this is my mal or that's mal, we often think of what? We think it's money, cash. Lakin in Kitab al-Bay', when the fuqaha are talking about buyoo', when the fuqaha are talking about mal, it can be anything. Ma lahu qima, anything that has a value. So mal in the books of fiqh is ma lahu qima. So mathalan, you building a shed, you trimming the garden, a garden for someone. That can be considered, that is mal, that is a value, although it is a manfa'a. طيب. Mubaha, طبعا it has to be permissible. It has to be permissible. لكن مثلا, things that are haram, alcohol, khamr, khinzir and all of that sort of stuff, it is not mal, it can't be considered mal, because obviously it is what? It is not mubah. It is not mubah. بِمِثْلِ أَحَدِهِمَا, with one of each other, يعني the like of the other one. So for example, I have a ayn for ayn, exchanging mobile phones. I have a brand new phone, I have an iPhone and you have a brand new Samsung. I buy my phone with your phone. That is a ayn bi ayn. Or a manfa'a, or a benefit. So مثلا, I'm going to teach you Arabic and you're going to teach me fiqh. That is mu'amala, that is a mu'amala. Don't always think of cash, like in that is a mu'amala. And then they look at whatever conditions they lay out. طيب. على التأبيد. Changing of ownership forever. A permanent changing of ownership. A permanent change or changing of ownership. What does that rule out? A permanent changing of rulership. Temporary. طيب. What sort of aqd or mu'amala can we? Loan. Or rent. So مثلا, you go to someone and you say, I want to buy a car from you. You give him the cash, he gives you what? The car. That car is now what? What is the athar of that aqd, the benefits of that aqd, the traces of it? The car is yours to keep. And the money is his. طيب, what if you go to him and say, listen, I want to rent out the car, your car, for a month. I want to rent out that car for a month. Here's £500. You get the car. Is that ala ta'bid? Is that a permanent changing of ownership? La. That is temporary. So from there we see that bay' is a lot more specific than ijara. Ijara is a type of bay'. Ijara, as we're going to see in the book. Also, ala ta'bid, it is a manfa'a. So you're taking the opposite of the manfa'a. مثلا, the car that I'm using, is the car mine if I rented it out? What am I benefiting from? It's manfa'a, the benefit of that car. I get to drive around, I get to drive it around. If I want, I can take people, I can go to the airport, I can come back, I can do school runs, I can do whatever I want. I'm using the manfa'a, the benefit of the actual object, which is the car. طيب. بغير, with other than riba and qard. Riba, interest, usury. So wherever aqd has riba or interest in it, then that is not bay'. Why? Because it is haram. And we shall see the evidence for that in the Kitab. Riba, interest, is haram. Therefore, that transaction, because it is haram, it is not recognized by the Sharia. ولا قرض, ولا قرض. Obviously, it is not, you're not lending out, you're not loaning out to someone, loaning something out to someone. That is the difference. And we shall see also there's a bab called ariya, when you're borrowing something, and qard, when it comes to riba and so on. So that is bay'. That is the definition of bay'. If you've not understood any of that, don't worry. You know what bay' is. You go to the shop and you buy a can of Coke. Sah? That is bay'. That is all that it means. So if you haven't understood definition, you'll understand the concept of bay'. Just like salah. What is the definition of salah? عبادة مختصة تبدأ بتكبير وذات أفعال وأقوال and so on. That definition, if you go to a Ammi and you say to him, Salah is عبادة مخصوصة ذات أفعال وأقوال, is certain statements and there's certain actions you have to do. Will he understand what you're talking about? Like if you say to him, it's the 5 daily prayers we pray, it's going to what? It's going to understand it. So don't worry too much about the definition if you haven't understood it. The next mas'ala is hukmuhu, the hukm of bay'. What is the ruling of it? طبعا we have to know the ruling of it. Like when we were studying salah. Salah, the Shaykh said what? The hukm. Zakah, then the Shaykh said the hukm. Siyam, then the Shaykh said the hukm. لكن the difference here is حكمه الأصل في البيوع أو الأصل في المعاملات in general الحل. I didn't even write الحل. الحل. The default ruling for any type of transaction is what? Halal. That is the asl. That is the asl. The total opposite to what? Ibadah. Ibadah was what? Al-aslu fil ibadat al-man'. So where now we're talking about al-hil, permissibility, with ibadat it was al-man'. So مثلا, you can't pray until you have a dalil. Concentrate on this point. You can't pray until you have a dalil. So salah is haram. It's not permissible for us to, unless we have a dalil. Hajj is impermissible for us unless we have a dalil. Once we have a dalil, then it becomes wajib or sunnah, depending on what the evidence points towards. Like in here, in this bab, it's the total opposite. The asal of it is what? Al-hil. And we talked about this qa'idah where? Al-qawa'id al-fiqhiyya. Al-qawa'id al-fiqhiyya, we talked about qa'idah called al-aslu fil ashya'i al-ibaha. So obviously that was more general. Al-aslu, the origin for al-ashya' things is al-ibaha. Like in here, al-aslu fil buyoo'. طيب. That's why if you look at evidences, which bab, which chapter or which kitab is going to have more evidence? The bab al-ibadat, the chapters of worship or the book of worship, or bab al-mu'amalat. Which one's going to have more evidence? Bab al-ibadat. Why is that? It's haram to do anything without a dalil. So for everything you want to do, you have to have a dalil. But for here, we can do whatever we want, unless it contradicts a hadith or a dalil, an ayah from the Kitab of Allah Jalla wa'ala, or the ijma' or qiyas. طيب? That's why if you look into the books of hadith, مثلا look into Bulugh al-Maram, the evidences for ibadat, bab al-ibadat, are a lot more than the evidences for bab al-Buyoo'. Because bab al-Buyoo', you just have to mention the ones that are haram and everything else is halal. Is that understood? طيب. طبعا إلا ما ورد فيه النهي, except for that which a nahi or a prohibition comes. طيب. The next point, al-Buyoo' al-Muharrama, transactions that are haram. Now, write this down. They're not in the book like they are now. They're summarized, and obviously I've just got it from the works of the Mashayikh, hafidhahumullah. Every type of action, every type of bay' that consists of one of these four, or all of these, or two of these, or three of these, is haram. So now that you know the asl is al-ibaha, yani is the asl is that all transactions are permissible, you have the opposite side, which is if you find any of these transactions in al-bay', in the past, in the aqd, then it becomes haram. Whether we study this or not now, it's the same because it's going to come in the book. طيب. Lakin it's better to have an overview of it now so that you know what's to come, and later on you will understand it. طيب. The first one, كل بيع. Sorry about the handwriting, lakin, I'm sure you can kind of understand it. What I'll do actually, I'll write it down, I'll send it to you on WhatsApp. كل بيع, every transaction, every bay' اشتمل على riba, that consists of riba, interest, فهو محرم. Every transaction اشتمل على riba, that consists of riba, is muharram. طيب. مثلا, I go to the shop, I have 10 grams of dhahab. I have 10 grams of gold, old gold. And I go to the the gold shop and I say, listen, I've got 10 grams of old gold. Give me 5 grams of new gold. Is that permissible? Like, it consists of riba. As for what riba is, we'll study it in the book, inshallah. Just write it down like this. Riba, usury, interest, whatever you want to call it. We'll study it in the book, inshallah. It has its own. It's in the first chapter, actually. طيب. So that chapter, when I go to the shop and I've got my 10 grams of old gold, and I say to the shopkeeper, give me 5 grams of gold, and he says, la, that's haram. I can't say, al-aslu fil buyu' al-hil. I can't say that. Can I say this principle? Can I apply it with him? Even if he's a faqih, why not? Because now, illa ma warada fihi nahi. There's an exemption now, which is, there's riba in this transaction. طيب. The next one, كل معاملة, every dealing or transaction, اشتملت على الظلم والخداع والتدليس فهي محرمة. Every mu'amala, every transaction that consists of oppression, ظلم. مثلا, someone's got a mobile phone, I take their mobile phone, or a thief takes their mobile phone off them, and he goes and sells it in the market. Or he comes into the room and says, I'm going to sell you a brand new phone. That's haram. Why? Dhulm. There's sariqa in there. That person has stolen and he has oppressed another person. Wal khida' wa tadlis. They're very similar, where there's deception and cheating involved. Mathalan, I'm selling Zamzam water. If I'm selling Zamzam water, and then I get a massive bottle, and I go to the tap, and I fill it up with what? Tap water. Then I say to the people, this is Zamzam. Obviously they're going to buy it because they're not going to be able to differentiate, صح? Lakin that bay' for me is what? Muharram. And tadlis, مثلا, a car. If I want to buy a car, and it has, so I'm the seller,